Hey guys, welcome to my basic tanking guide. This is not going to cover any specific class, but just tanking in general. Today we're going to cover tank duties, threat generation, mitigation, and pull types. I'll cover some of the more advanced mechanics of tanking in later videos. If you've never tanked before, let me just go ahead and tell you it requires a lot of patience on your end and as well as your team. But if you look at the bright side, you don't have to wait 10 hours to play for 30 minutes anymore. If you have class-specific concerns, please feel free to leave a comment below. Hope you find this video helpful. Tanking is a finesse and synergetic role. It requires you to be consistent and predictable as well as reliant on your healer. You are only as good as your healer, don't forget that. Tanks and heals are the bread and butter of the group. The DPS is just the sandwich meat. With that being said, you set the pace for the group, so the group can only go as fast as you. Your job as a tank is not only to absorb damage, but to avoid taking damage altogether. This also means avoiding mechanics where possible. To sum it up, you're there to soak the damage and also prevent everyone from taking damage. Alright, let's go ahead and just take a look at some pulls from the good, the bad, and the terrible. I'm going to walk you with my method on tanking. There's always a variation or someone has a different style, but this is going to be as generalized as possible. It's going to have a little bit of flair of what I do, but you get the gist of it. Go ahead and do that ready check and make sure your healer is ready to go. Can't do a pull without those heals. This is what I would normally call a standard pull. You'll see I'm doing this strange movement of strafing. It's actually not strange. What I'm doing is making sure I'm facing the targets as I'm circling around so that I get all my tanking bonuses such as dodge, block, and parry. Dodging is technically not a bonus, but who cares. My tanking style is to generate threat equally on all targets, but still generating more threat on the primary target. Use the first couple of pulls to gauge the DPS and the healer. If the group is good enough, you might even be able to chain pull. Here's a scenario where I lost aggro on a mob and I don't have provoke, so I'm melee attacking to pull back to the group. Make sure you're aware of the other mobs and that you still have aggro on them before chasing after the other mob. Sometimes your heals and DPS start before you can actually collect everything. Here you see I'm using a ranged attack to pick the mob back up. Here I've already initialized a pull and I've built up a decent amount of threat and I feel comfortable enough to start the next pull, so I go ahead and pull the second group. I would say this is a more intermediate to advanced technique, so proceed with caution. Dependent on your UI, you do have a threat table on the left which shows you different icons. Red obviously means that you've got the threat, green means that you don't. Only attempt it if you've been tanking for a while and you feel comfortable with your skills and you feel confident in your healer, which most of the time I don't. Make sure you have a couple of tanking cooldowns before you chain pull. As you can see right here, I use second wind to get some health back. You can also see I did a snap-aggro technique on one of the loose mobs. Sometimes you might not be able to pick everything up, and that's okay. That just means that things need to die faster, and that's not your job. Just do what you know best. Generate threat on every target possible. This is the part where you go balls to the walls. Again, make sure all the mobs are facing you so that way you use all your tanking bonuses, and make sure you use AoE threat abilities. While we're on the subject of tanking everything, make sure that you have the best gear that you can possibly get and that you're spacing out your cooldowns to make sure that your healer can keep you alive. You're probably going to be nervous when you tank your first big boss like one of the primals, but it's nothing really to worry about. Just saddle up Ifrit and go to town. Oh yeah, and make sure you know the boss fight as well, and that can be learned through wiping. Hope you have fun.